Are we good? Are we live? Are we good? Hold on, let me just fix this. This is bugging me a little. It's not gonna be perfect because it doesn't show my taskbar, but that should be fine. I think that's fine, right? That looks alright. There's just a little bit of a thing there. Um, let me make sure the stream is up. Okay, wonderful. We're just gonna wait a few minutes for people to get in. Oh, this, I was dropping frames for a second. Hope my connection doesn't magically suck. That would be unfortunate. You can hear my water bottle and my little talk sprite does the talking when that's fun. That's funny. That's fun. That's fun. Hmm, what am I looking for? Ah, there we go. Might as well pull this up while we wait for some people to show up. Um, yeah, that's probably good. Oh, nice. There we go. This is just a cool little, like, backdrop. I'm not gonna lie. I did have homework I was supposed to do last night, and I didn't do it because I was working on my talk sprite and some other assets for the stream, and I just got a 0 on them. So maybe stay in school, kids. But we are gaming. Are we gaming? Well, Homestuck is about a game, so I guess that counts. I like to think we're gaming in my heart, in my mage of heart, in my this. I guess you could see it better if I do that. There we go. Yippee. Um, I am feeling a little under the weather, so if you're wondering why my voice sounds like that, uh, that's why. But all right. Um, I know we did the Cringetober wrap-up stream, but Cringetober is over when I say it's over. I have a thing planned that's gonna wrap up Cringetober for real. Even though it's it's December. Mm. That's fine. It's fine. I can do whatever I want. It's my YouTube channel. So, yeah, class-specting. Certainly a hot topic in the Homestuck community. Um, I was sort of planning on explaining it to someone, but VOD watchers, you are the only ones getting in on this, so congratulations. First off, let me create a new little image here. There we go. There we go. I'll do that. Huzzah! Okay, so class specting. Ooh, I'm gonna turn off smooth stroke actually. What is class specting? Well, it has two parts here. There's the class and then the pecting. Class is just straight up class. It's sort of like a fantasy trope thing, like what class would you play in D&D? What class would you play in an RPG? Very straightforward. And then the aspect is the fun part. The aspect is sort of what part of the universe do you have a thematic bond with? There we go. So, I'm gonna start with the aspect. Actually, you're not late. That's okay. Now I can actually explain to someone. Sorry, VOD watchers, you've got competition. Um, love the talk sprite. Thank you, thank you. I did it instead of my homework last night, and I didn't turn it in. So I'm an adult. I can draw whatever I want. So, you didn't miss anything. Uh, the class that's like your RPG class, sort of what role you play. Aspect is what you most generally engage with in the universe. So, for example, um, I am a mage of heart. So, actually, I'm just gonna. There we go. So, I am a mage of heart. Now what does that mean? Actually, there we go. Color code it properly. So, a mage is someone who understands. Oop, ignore my awful handwriting. Their aspect. And heart is like the self and identity and being, that kind of thing. So, a system that helps to deeply understand all of the facets of someone's personality and being and how they interact with the whys of the world. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk I'd be into that sort of thing? Um, before we like really get into the meat of it, something you've got to understand, something you really just got to know, is that all of this is just wonderful bullshit. It doesn't really mean anything past the surface level. It is the same sort of vibe as a zodiac sign. It's just there for vibes and for funsies. Um, don't actually take much of this super seriously, especially because the like canon itself doesn't take it seriously at all. Let's fix that. There we go. Let me just There we go. All better now. Um, right. So, people who share a class in common. The class is sort of like what kind of person you are, what role you play in this story, what's your whole deal. Um, Homestuck is gospel, and my youth pastor will be hearing about this. Uh, I think your youth pastor is going to melt like the witch from the Wizard of Oz. So the class is what kind of person you are, and the aspect is what you sort of engage with. The class tells you more about the person than the aspect does. So in terms of um, personality, class, whoops, class has more weight than aspect. And a cool example I like to use of this is if we go over here, um, a firefighter and arsonist both have a thematic bond with fire, but they both engage with it differently. Right? So doomed, yeah, pretty much. So even though they both like use fire language to sort of talk about the world and their worldview and how they fit in it, the way they interact with fire is going to be vastly differently. And that's sort of what this means here. So if we go over to a fresh page, let's fix that. Um, Actually, so I'm gonna talk in depth about all of the classes and all of the aspects, but I'm gonna go more into detail with the aspects first. So people who go online in the modern era are gonna see this image floating around. This is from a personality quiz that the people behind HiveSwap did, called the Extended Zodiac, which is to sort of explain what your Homestuck troll sign would be from your Alternian uh, symbol based on what aspect you were. But this actually has a lot of like significance outside of that context. Also, please, 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 do not do the extended zodiac. I will be doing the extended zodiac later in the stream. Um, don't do it. It sucks. It sucks bad. It's not correct. Um, but it is funny. So, what is an aspect? An aspect is like 1/12 of the universe, basically. Everyone in their lifetime is going to interact with all of these aspects because they're all evenly distributed in the universe, in the world. Um, it's just we just have more of like a theme on one of them than the others. So starting at we'll start with these two. These are the sort of most important here. We have on this side, this is space. I'm gonna go. There we go. We have space over here, and over here is time. So these are sort of opposites. In the aspect wheel, space is like both like literal space, like as in dimension, but also in it deals with stuff like loneliness, creativity. Creation is a big theme of space. Space is a very like passive aspect. It's about things that just sort of like go on without much motive or activity to them. Time is very direct. It's about activity, so doing stuff, doing actions, but also about like literal time. It's about history, uh, and change, development, that kind of things with time. Um, I don't really know how much more depth I can go into. These are very like literal. Some aspects are more literal than others. That's fine. I mean, space and time, they're not actually opposites. Destroying time doesn't really create space in the same way a lot of the others do. Um, but think of space time, right? Messing with that, all of that. In Homestuck, in the game where this is all irrelevant, called Spurb or Scrub or Sherb, um, whichever. Um, Space and time are like the sort of big two because the you need a space player and a time player in order to do anything in a session. The space player is going to create the frog that will become the universe. The universe is a frog, by the way. That's not directly relevant to this, but I thought you should know. Um, and the time player lights the forge on their planet to be able to do that. You need the forge to be lit up so that the frog that becomes the universe can like incubate and stuff. So that's why they're important. But so you can have all the irons in the fire. Yeah, there's so many irons in the fire you don't even know. Now this is the big sort of axis of the aspects here. That people like to focus on is the space-time axis, where things over here, that's the wrong, things over here are going to be more passive, and things over here are going to be more active. So if you look, mind and void are as spacey as each other, and light and heart are as timey as each other. But another axis that people don't really focus on is the breath blood axis. And I'll write this down. Breath and blood. There we go. So, breath is all about, freedom, detachment. It's also like the literal air that we breathe. Um, but there's also like more of the sort of metaphorical parts of it, like inspiration, aspirations, regular spiration, that's just breathing. And blood, on the other hand, is all about not detachment, but attachment. It's about bonds and connection, and sacrifice, those kind of vibes there. Um, blood is a very sort of realist, pessimistic sort of vibe. Uh, blood is the glass half empty, and breath is the glass half full sort of dynamic there. Um, so while space and time are like the material parts of the universe, like the actual space and actual time that lets us exist and stuff, breath and blood are more of like the metaphysics behind it. Um, breath is the cause and blood is the effect. That sort of thing. If you look here, um, hope and life are as breathy as each other, and doom and rage are as bloody as each other. So these two sort of axes describe everything. However, it's sort of arbitrary that we put that there. It could be any of them. So like you could measure stuff on the life, doom, mind, heart sort of axis there, and that would be perfectly acceptable. It's all symbolism. It's all symbology. It's all symbols. Um, it's literal in the sense that it's also literally those things that they are, but it's also like the vibes. Um, I'm gonna go around and sort of explain the rest of them though. So life. Life is like progression and evolution and development, um, and also like literal living things. It's all about like growth and change. Not change in the sense that time just cares about any change. Uh, Life specifically cares about like the growing from something, rebirth, that sort of vibe to it. It's about beginnings, whereas Doom down here, I don't know if that's gonna be able to be read. I will make it like a dark green, sort of like how it is in the thing. So Doom is the opposite, the antithesis of life. It's about death and rot and decay, and endings and suffering, that kind of stuff. Very sort of fatalistic aspect, because it's sort of close down here to uh, blood. Light is shout out Mitsuna. Rip in peace, Mitsuna. What happened to you was a tragedy. Which is also very doom coded. So light is about information. It's about relevance, the spotlight, knowledge, that kind of vibe. It's about also luck and fortune. And you can kind of see this in the way that people interact with it. Jade Harley, Witch of Space, she manipulates the space around her and changes it, changes what it means to create something or to sort of develop a new universe. Uh, Dave Strider is the Knight of Time, one who fights to protect time and the timeline. Dead Daves are the enemy. Stable time loops, exploiting it as your weapon and your shield. Um, John Egbert, Air of Breath, um, sort of one who becomes their aspect, inherits their aspect. Uh, John became free from the plot at some point. Major Homestuck spoilers, by the way. Who cares? You're already here. Became free from the plot and detached himself by gaining retcon powers. Um, Blood. Karkat Vantis. The Knight of Blood. Who sort of had to uh lead the team and protect them, but also sort of exploit their relationships in order to facilitate them actually being there and living their lives. And also, when all of them died tragically, he had to make sure their sacrifices meant something, sort of protect the meaning of it. Um, Life, the shoot, what's her name? Jane, Jane Crocker, the Maid of Life, sort of served life and served through life, making sure that like her team sort of grew and changed and evolved, especially coming back after they all died and went god tier. And when the new world happened and the dubiously canon epilogues, she sort of took serving life in a very like bad and evil approach and became kind of like Troll Hitler. Um, Doom, Solix Captor, the Mage of Doom, one who understands death and suffers it and then guides through it. Um, Solix was oh God, my brain. I think I'm coming down with something. I'm getting mondo brain fog. Solix was all about hearing the voices of the imminently deceased and sort of inadvertently caused the um complete destruction of the universe, of his universe, the troll's universe. Light, Rose was sort of the seer of light. Rose Lalonde. She knew information and knew through relevance and fortune, so she could see what events would play out um through both the sort of interpreting Skaya's prophecy, but also like just through straight up knowing where the relevance was in the session, what parts were relevant. Um, Opposite to light is void. Void is about secrets and irrelevance and absence and nothingness. Um, so it sort of opposes light. Light is everything, void is nothing. Light is information, void is secrets. Light is relevance, void is irrelevance. Very direct opposites there. Um, Roxy Lalonde was the rogue of void. She could redistribute something's nothing. She was one who redistributed void and redistributed through void. So she could take the void, the nothingness from a concept, and then just sort of put that nothingness somewhere else, and thus the concept became real. That's how she could create stuff. Um, but she also sort of took people's secrets and then sort of spilled them by accident, redistributing them. Down here, heart. This one's my favorite one. Heart is about identity, the self, personality, emotion. It deals itself with more so the essence of existence, like why things happen more so than what happens. Um, Nepeta Leon was the rogue of heart. Um, we didn't really see much of what she did in her session, but like the vibes are there, you know? She cared a lot about sort of romance and love, but also like people's personalities and their reasonings, their motives. 20 with Nepeta, real best day of my life, really. I love Nepeta. One of my favorite characters. Um, and then Mind. Mind concerns itself with the with consequences of actions, logic, existence over essence, what over why. Um, Terezi Pyrope, love Terezi, one of my favorite characters also. Um, was the seer of mind, and she saw many of the logical outcomes and was concerned with like the law and such. Uh, she all of her sort of supernatural abilities were about the consequences of actions and the probabilities of those happening. Um, which is funny because heart is on the blood side of things, which would one would think that would means it's like a pessimistic aspect. And mind is on the breath side of things, so one would think that it's on like the freedom and detachment side of things. But only like in vibes, not so much in like practice. Um, because heart is really like sort of getting into the nitty gritty of why people do things, where mind isn't really concerned with the motive, just that it happened. And on the breath side of things just be happening all the time. It's just what they do. They make things happen. Um, Hope. Actually, no. I'm going clockwise. Rage down here. Rage is like anger and fear, um, negative emotion, that kind of thing. But it's also like the intolerance of bullshit. Um, a lot of activists are probably rage bound because they're fed up with the way things are going and channel their anger towards the machine to sort of direct themselves. So it's not necessarily if you're rage bound you're immediately bad forever. All of these aspects are morally neutral. Rage is just they rage against the machine. Anyway, um, yeah, pretty much. Meanwhile, on the hope side of things, over here. Oh, I should give examples. Rage. Let's see. Gamzee Makara, um, is the Bard of Rage, one who allows destruction through rage and invites destruction through rage. Um, Gamzee sort of passively sat in the background until he went on a freak juggalo murder spree on all of his troll friends, and then just sort of became an unkillable henchman because clowns are notoriously hard to kill. That's just by the way, in Homestuck, clowns are hard to kill purely on the fact that they're clowns. That's just an innate feature of them. They're hard to kill. Gamzee is innocent. No, not really. I mean, Gamzee was mind controlled a lot, but also like wasn't mind controlled. A lot of Gamzee's a complicated character, and just saying Gamzee is innocent or Gamzee is a bad person, it sort of misses the point of the character. They did do Gamzee dirty though. He deserved better. He just didn't get better. Hope on the other side, is the bullshit that Rage is intolerant towards. It is about hope and dreams and positive emotion. Um, Stuff that isn't real, but you wish really hard on a star that it was. Um, Jake English is the Page of Hope, one who fights to preserve hope and fights to preserve through hope. Sort of wanted to keep the status quo as it was in his sort of fantasy adventure daydream land. And when challenged with basically like any deeper thought, he just sort of shut it down because preservation means keeping it the same. So he didn't really want his hopes to change. He didn't want his ideals or beliefs to change. He didn't want the ideals or beliefs of other people to change. He just wanted everything to stay as it was forever. Um, and that's sort of why he sucked bad as a person, but that's okay. He's my poor little meow meow. Um, so these are the aspects. Um, I know these things front to back at this point. I love them dearly. I look for them in everything because you know, the parasites in my head. But now the classes. The classes don't have a cool wheel like this one. But what they do have is we recently got this. This is an official um the official class pairings of like just directly from the document. Now, before I go into what these are or what they do, I'm going to talk about activity. I mentioned it with the time-space axis a little. So, there we go. Excuse me? Do what I tell you. So, the active, where's waste? Guys, use the spot. There's, okay. Active and passive. So active classes are very active in the session. There's some of the major foreground players. Um, there's a lot of ways you could look at activity and passivity. It's not talked about super a lot in the comic, and where it is talked about, it's from Calliope, or Calliope, however you wish to pronounce it. Um, and she is an unreliable narrator simply because she does not have all of the information. Um, she's just sort of another fan doing fan theories, which I can respect, but she's also wrong all of the time. Um, the most like direct vibe here is frontline versus backline. Active classes are generally going to be more frontline, and passive classes are going to be more backline. Um, the witch and prince, using their abilities to sort of sculpt the battlefield and take out the enemies, and then people like the seer and the rogue should be more in the back, um, as strategists and um, like buffers, that kind of thing. But it's also like how they interact with their aspect. Active classes generally sort of go against the flow of their aspect a little, and passive classes go uh with the flow, if that makes sense. So the air, for example, is going to have the smoothest ride with their aspect, just sort of naturally coming into it, as their own sort of the easiest coming of age story you've ever heard. John Egbert didn't have to fight with breath at all, just sort of, all right, cool. All right, I guess we're doing this now. All right. Very passive person. Meanwhile, Jade Harley had to deal a lot with being sort of isolated on her island, and then once she became a witch of space, um, how her powers sort of affected reality. There's a lot of sort of not inner conflict, but sort of just tension between her and her aspect. And Prince especially, with the destroying of their aspect and destroying with their aspect. And again, I'm gonna go into detail on what all of these do. I'm just giving sort of like a brief vibes overview. Um, but that's sort of where active and passive go. And one last little thing here before I get into the definitions of the classes. I want to talk about the master classes. So you'll see here, Lord and Muse. Um, these are supposedly like the most powerful classes there are. And I hate them. I hate them so much. I hate them with a passion. Um, there's no way these would actually appear in an actual session. Um, people just aren't like paragons. We're complicated. We do different things. There's no characterization to them. Um, a class is what kind of person you are. This is not a kind of person. This is a narrative role. You're a plot device. It's crazy how Lord English was so Lord English. His aspect was English, of which he was the Lord. it true. I loved when he said it's Englishing time and Englished all over the place. That was my favorite part. Um, yeah, so they suck bad. The Lord is just the type of person you are the foreground player. You are the one that does things. You have complete command over you're in creative mode. You have complete command over your aspect. And it's just like for what? It doesn't do you don't change as a person. There's no character development. You just suck from start to finish. And the muse, there's no thing that the muse does that the others don't. The muse is basically a maid seer page rogue bardair. It's just like there's no point. You sit in the you sit in your room and then time passes. That's what a muse does. But oh no, you're underneath the foreground of the story. You're in the background of every scene. You're pulling the strings. I call BS. I'm not talking about these in the guide. They suck. They're it's just poorly designed. How do you expect to out English? I'm already Lord English introduction. I'm positive he said that. Mm. Man, winter's coming on, and it is hitting me hard. Okay. Um, one thing that tripped up a lot of people is the witch sylph pairing and heir maid pairing. Was Doc Scratch also a Lord of English? Uh, no, he was a Doc of Scratch, obviously. Um, if you notice with Prince through Mage and Seer through Bard, they're all paired up an active and passive class. Um, but Witch and Sylph and Maid and Heir don't really follow that. The entire design process of this was simply to make fan theorists go crazy. It was just hussy trolling as usual. But it does make sense. It does make sense. Um, because if you look, each of these has a number associated. That's like how active or how passive the class is. So a witch is more active than a knight is. Um, sorry, what for? Um, but the Sylphin Maid don't really follow that. Because a prince is as active. Didn't even go through. It's so powerful. I believe you. Um, the prince is as active as the bard is passive. But again, Sylph and Maid they break that pattern. If they were switched, it still wouldn't really make sense. Um, I like the way it is now. Now that I know what it is and the reasoning behind it. But it was frustrating when I first saw it, and I was like, I have to redo all of my notes. Um, why is why is the borders of this anyway? Um, so now I'm actually gonna go into what they do. The witch. The witch is someone who changes and manipulates their aspect. Um, a class's verbiage, as it's called, is basically saying, the class, uh, does X, both to their aspect and through their aspect. The verbiage is like the main point of the class. It's the function of it. So the witch, um, changes and manipulates their aspect. Um, So that can mean changing the rules of it, changing its properties, but also like manipulating through it, using it to sort of like meddle with other people. The witch and sylph are both very metally classes. They like to meddle. Um, they're meddlesome. The prince destroys very directly, destroys their aspect and destroys through their aspect. Um, that can mean it. The prince has a lot of like sort of like Chinibio kind of anime tropes associated with it. So the a prince's aspect is both their edgy ninja sword and edgy ninja tatami mat. Basically, they use it to destroy things, and then also it is what they destroy. Um, thief. Thief steals their aspect. Very directly. Um, the thief steals not to have the thing, so much as for the sake of stealing it. They want to take it, and they want you to know that they were the one that took it from you. Essentially, very very selfish ideal there. The knight um fights to protect. Also, just so you know, the official lore document that this was pulled from was only 1 page long. The entire comic was written that it was 1 page of this. This is what the information of. So, and I've talked about it for 45 minutes so far. 47 actually. Um, this is why I tell you to take it with a grain of salt. Um, the knight exploits their aspect, but that's not like the main function of them. They're fighters. They protect their aspect. They are the sword and shield. But they do it through exploiting their aspect. Um, exploiting as in like Dave used stable time loops to crash the stock market on his planet to get infinite money for the players in their session. For 6 or 7 minutes, I've shot 80 times. No. Why is 6 afraid of 7? Cause 7 ain't 9. The mage. That's me. Smiles. Where's my mouse? There it is. Um, the mage sort of it understands. Understanding the difference between the mage and the seer. The mage understands their aspect. The seer knows their aspect. Um, the seer is like sort of the wizard, but the mage is more like the sorcerer. Um, the a mage is what happens when you get the bone deep understanding of having a concept fused to your psyche, basically. Understand the concept of love. That's me. Um, so basically everything I am and what I do and what I think and how I interact with the world is going to be heart coded, because it's fused to my psyche. But I, as the Mage of Heart, want to understand my psyche and how that concept is fused to it, and so it just creates this feedback loop of I just will not shut up, basically. And I'm comfortable with that. I love talking, not to hear the sound of my own voice, but to communicate my knowledge, to teach the world my final message. Um, personally, I like when people talk based. The sylph is like a more magical witch. The sylph creates and mends their aspect. Um, Whereas the witch wants to take the Rubik's cube and scramble it, right? The sylph is going to take the Rubik's cube and solve it, or give it to you in a specific state that the sylph claims is solved and will not budge on the matter. Sylphs are very um prescriptive in that sense, as they'll tell you what the problem is, they'll diagnose you, and then they'll tell you what steps you need to do to fix it. Um, and they're only right some of the time. They're right enough of the time where it's you should at least like listen, hear them out. But most of the time, it's yeah. Um, I'm gonna start from the back here and work up now. The heir um inherits um becomes and ascends. There's three here. But it's only because what the heir does is sort of like a blend of those three. Um, it's sort of hard to explain the vibes there. Um, but like John, it was the heir of breath. When he became god tier, it could literally turn into wind. So like you're literally becoming your aspect, but you're also like taking on the specific characteristics of your aspect, such as being, in John's case, free and detached from everything, and ascending as in like becoming really powerful through that. John is too much of a special boy. Nerf John. It's okay. It's okay. In Homestuck Beyond Canon, they gave a hint that John's going to transition eventually, and I would be fine with that on my team. I don't mind. Um, when he's helping us, that's fine. Waiting for the June canon. Well, Homestuck Beyond Canon is one beyond canon, but also dubiously canon. Canon is a tangible force in the Homestuck universe. It is diegetic, and it has to deal with the light aspect a lot. Um, Short little tangent here. Light has to deal with or canon specifically, actually, has to deal with truth, relevance, essentiality. So basically, in order for something to be canon, it has to be true, it has to be relevant, and it has to be essential. Um, in that order of importance. Truth nuke. Um, so the things that happen in the Homestuck comic are true. Maybe not everything that's said, but the events that happen are true. They did happen, correct. Relevance, they are relevant to the plot in the sense they're the most relevant because they are directly from the base comic. And essential, is it required to push the plot forward? Not everything in the comic was essential, but all of the themes there were. Choose true to me, relevant, and essential. Yeah, it is subjective to a point. Um, Homestuck Beyond Canon, is both true. It's well, it is true because the Homestuck people are talking about it. It's sort of relevant, kind of, and it's not essential. You don't need to know what happens in Homestuck Beyond canon to appreciate the original thing, the relevance it has. I mean, there's stuff like this which clarifies the original comic, and it's true in the sense that yep, they got a team on it. It's endorsed. It's happening. Same sort of vibe with the Homestuck epilogues, which Beyond the canon then continues. Yeah, ready for the next reach around where Beyond canon will go back into the comic prime. You're right. I'm not ready. I will be genuinely surprised if they officially canonize Beyond canon. Mostly because all of the original characters are like middle aged now, and everyone's problematic. It's hilarious. The Bard. The Bard is a little chaos gremlin. Source, my little brother is one. Um, the Bard allows slash invites destruction. Um, so whereas the prince is the one directly doing the destroying, the bard just sort of lets it happen by existing in the vicinity. Sans Undertale is a bard of doom, by the way, in case you didn't know. Um, that's true because I decided it. I did the math about it. Mm-hmm. One who allows the destruction of doomed timelines, and invites the destruction of doomed timelines, by being just a silly little guy. Oh, that it's part of dude canon to me. Yeah. But also like allows the timeline to get doomed by not stepping in immediately when the player kills people. Only going until the very end, and then the huge destructive power. That's like peak bard activity. And also, he's just a silly guy. Like that's just such a like a silly bard thing to do. The rogue, instead of steals for like in a thiefy way, it steals in a Robin Hood way. Um, sort of redistribute their aspect. Um, the rogue and thief are very like direct. There's not really a whole lot of depth that goes into them. Rogues are very like selfless people, whereas thieves are very selfish. But it's like with the same energy. They're the same amount. Um, the rogue definitely cares about other people. But also has no qualms of stealing from the rich, basically. Get yourself a rogue friend. The page, instead of fights to protect, uh, fights to preserve. Actually, I'm gonna write this down here. Fights to preserve. You are that rogue friend? Based. Um, fights to preserve. Preservation is not necessarily protection, but it's also not protection. Preservation just means you don't really want it to stay. You don't really want it to change. You want it to stick around, preferably in the form that it's currently in. Very resistant to the status quo. Pages have um sort of a tough time being good at anything. Um, and that's mostly because pages have the highest skill floor, but also like the highest skill ceiling. So they have the longest um sort of character development arc, Um, but they also don't really have an upper limit on how powerful they can get. So a fully realized page is like bonkers level. A fully realized page can take on a lord and win. Like they directly say that multiple times. Um, but like a page just from the get go is kind of like a professional at sucking ass. There's not really a whole lot there to work with. And they're also kind of a little insufferable. Page of book beats Lord of English. You heard it here first, folks. The seer. The seer knows their aspect. Um, Not in like the sort of innate understanding of a mage. The seer, there's no such thing as an info hazard to a seer. They're just gonna keep looking. They just gotta know. They just look in all of the books, and they keep going even when it's bad for them. Whereas the mage sort of like will sort of like suffer their aspect in a way. Um, Mulin Leon, the ancestor of Nepeta, was a mage of heart. That's me. And she was sort of the relationship guru of her team, but also like had really terrible luck with relationships. The seer recognizes the bodies. The seer does recognize the bodies in the water. That is correct. The mage is one of the bodies in the water. That's sort of the dichotomy there. Um, the maid serves their aspect. Now, there's there's a lot of different ways this could mean. There's like, okay. So aspect, the material, which is like the physically what it is. Light is actual light, space is actual space. Shout out Aradia. For real. Aradia is such a real one. Aspect as material, right? That's like the literal definition of the aspect. Um, then there's aspect as, we'll say, force. Actually, we'll call this one domain. There's aspect as domain. Ignore my horrible handwriting, which is like sort of the collection of related concepts that the aspect has. Breath's domain is in freedom and detachment and that kind of thing. Light's domain is in information. Um, Mind's domain is in logic and probabilities. Um, and then there's also uh force, which is like sort of the intent or the drive of the aspect. Um, like they're not alive. The aspects don't think. They don't have wills or motives. But if they did, that would be force. That's sort of like the intent that they were forged with, if that makes sense. The maid sort of doesn't really care so much about the material itself as it does sort of cleaning up the domain and following the will of the force. These aren't each other. It's sort of like a trinity situation. Material is not domain. Domain is not force. Force is not material. But all of them together are the aspect. And that is the classes. Um, Right. There is another thing about the classes I do want to go into a little detail on, and this is not talked about in canon so much, but it's this interpretation I saw recently that I think is really cool. Um, so I'll make a new thing here. We have the um, I'll use these. Can I? There we go. We have active and we have passive. Um, and you can see here that they have numbers associated with them. So if we go air, bard, rogue, page, seer, and maid, and then on the active side we have witch, prince, the thief, the knight, the mage, and the sylph. Now these are more passive on or active on this side and less so on this side. Um, but if you look here, there's sort of a line between them, and I think, and some other people also think this, that this is magic. How magical the class is. Because Kanaya Mariam, the sylph of space for the trolls session, when asked what is a sylph is a more magical witch, and she is suddenly completely sure of that. And when Hussey was asked, "What does the mage do?" They responded, "You want to know what the mage does? The mage is magic. They do magic." Um, and you may think, but Tortoise, the witch, that's a magical word. And you'd think that, but if you look at the witches in the story, they're way analytical about their powers. Jade Harley is a scientist. And if you look at the heir, also the heir who is supposed to just be like, let's all just like have fun with our aspects and just like get along. Um, I just said the witch wrong. Don't worry about it, guys. Um, the heir, um, John, when going into the details of how the alchemy works, basically how to combine items, um, John wrote like a whole thing about it, and about data structures and base 64 and different combinations that work versus what they don't. They're like the witch and the heir are both very like scientific people. And even so much as the prince and the bard, you may not like think about it, but Dark Strider, the Prince of Heart, was like a very like cerebral roboticist. Was all about science and logic and whatnot, but there was just that little bit there. That was just that little bit of, hey, let's upload my brain into a computer, Lamau. Um, and then the bard, they call him Method Man. The bard, Gamzee, was very on the surface all about miracles and whatnot, but it was all like evidence based. Like, could you explain it with science? Yeah. Yeah, you could. And then he did later. He talked about it a lot. Um but he chose not to. get into it with other people. The thief and the rogue. Um, the thief is very like, ah, you know, uh, Vriska Circuit, the thief of light, stole the spotlight. Literally did that. Became one of the most relevant people in the comic simply by stealing everyone else's relevance. That's diegetic. That's why Hussey focused on Vriska, and for no other reason. I'm sure there's no other reason for an adult to spend a little too much time on their favorite 12-year-old. I'm positive that must be the case. God, this whole fandom is radioactive. Um. Anyway, um, the rogue, especially Roxy Lalonde. Roxy was a scientist. I mean, Roxy was also very into wizards. That was a very key part of her personality. She is a scientist who loved wizards. That makes sense if you're in the dead middle of it all, right? Um, the Knight and Paige. Paige definitely wants to live in a fantasy land. The Knight does all sorts of time BS shenanigans. In at least in Dave's case. Um, the mage does magic. That's what the mage does. Um, and the seer similarly also has like wicked prophecy powers and can see the future and how things play out. And then the sylph and maid are just like the most magical classes because that's their job. A sylph is a more magical witch. And I really like this interpretation. There's some evidence in the canon to back it up. It's not something that's super disputed. It doesn't have like entirely, um, you know, if you get it wrong, it's gonna break the whole thing. It's just sort of, it's more of an interpretation than what the active passive pairings were before those were revealed. Um, and basically that's class specting. Now how? Oh, there's one more thing. There's one more thing I need to talk about. um, and that's lunar sway. That's lunar sway, everyone. We're gonna sway lunarly. In Homestuck, there's like, there we go, a big ball of sky. This is Skya. It's where the battlefield is. That's where the main like war happens. This is the plot of the game that they play. Um, and Skya has a bunch of like clouds in it. It's a big ball of sky. And those clouds show the future to people that look at them. And Skya has like weird metaphysical prophetic BS powers to sort of protect itself. And there are two moons. Um, there is Prospit, which is the yellow one, as shown by this banana. Banana for scale. um, and then you've got every player's planets in the sort of vicinity there, and then out here, what a big banana. Yeah. And then out here, towards the outer ring, is Durst. And these are related to the dream selves. So we have Prospit and Durst. So in Homestuck, you have a dream self. Basically, it's your extra life. If you die, you wake up as your dream self. Sucks. Or no, if you die and someone kisses you while you're dead, then you wake up in your dream self body. It's your extra life. Um, but it's also like how you sort of interact. The lands that you're on, your planets that you get assigned, Durst Strider, Strider brother, has to be with tongue too. I don't think it. I don't think it does. I don't think that's. I don't think that's right. Um. So these are like where your quests are. It's specific with each player. It's usually based on your aspect. Must have been the wind. um, but when you go to sleep, you wake up on Prospect or Durs, and that's where you get to interact with like the politics of it. Because these are the two that are fighting the war on the battlefield, which is a big chessboard, and so you get your narrative play in too. Um, about half of the players are gonna wake up on Prospect, and then half of them are gonna be on Durs. And the only like I guess impact that your lunar sway has is generally if you're more uh self-oriented or others oriented. And um the rogue and thief, you'd think, oh, the thief has to be Prospect and the rogue, sorry, the thief has to be Durst and the rogue has to be Prospect because whether it's about the self or the others, that's like their whole deal. But that's not the case. Um, this is how their powers work. Um, but the Prospect or Durst um it doesn't really it's like a separate variable almost, if that makes sense. um I don't really know what that variable is. I'm gonna be real. I don't really know exactly what's the difference between a Durst rogue versus a Prospect rogue, but this is just what the comic tells us. um the way you figure out if you're a Durst dreamer or a Prospect dreamer is like the big question everyone asks you: do you make your bed in the morning when you wake up? Um, if you do, you're on Prospect. If you don't, you're on Durst. And hell, knowing Husky, that might just be the actual distinction. That just might be like what the reason is. But it's got to be more than that. I think it should be more than that. And this is my stream. Um, again, this is like based off vibes. Changing lunar sway today. That's class specting. That's all the bits of it. Here's how to class spect yourself. Here's how to do it yourself. I think it's also like prospect dreamers are more proactive versus Durst dreamers being reactive. I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, like I said, it's a lot on vibes. A whole second chatter, a third one. Wow. Everyone's tuning in. Hello. Yeah. It's based off vibes a lot. Um, been here the whole time. Wait, hold on. That reminds me of a thing I need to look up right now. Oh, where is it? Oh no. Oh no, it's not there. Oh, Google Images, you have failed me forever. Whatever. There was this edit of Sam Wright from like Game Changer, who painted to look like Lord English, and it's been like I've been here the whole time, and it didn't work. Dang it. Anyway, you've seen that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you get it. You understand. I'm beaming my knowledge to you all psychically. But that's class specting. I don't know how much of that everyone else missed, but um, I I like class-pecting a lot. I do it all of the time. Here the whole time. If by whole time you mean 5 minutes. So what would a waste of English be doing? Oh, fan classes. Okay, so um, something that's important to note is that all of these are one word. Uh, oh wait, the or not just one word, but also one syllable. The aspects um are also one syllable. So English would not be an acceptable aspect, but speech would be. A waste of English. Well, let's think about it. English, as material force and domain, English is the language itself that's spoken. The domain is like language arts and that kind of thing, and the force of it would be prescriptive communication because English class is all about telling you grammar. And waste, I think, would be a class um, that basically um, consumes their aspect and consumes through their aspect. Sort of like a black hole you just throw things into and it's nothing really gets done with them. So a waste of English would be someone who you try to teach grammar and rules and stuff, and when it interacts with those things it just sort of like falls through. It's not even in one ear at the other, it's in one ear and then to the infinite black hole that is their brain. um and I think a waste of English probably wouldn't know how to speak. That's my interpretation. But also it's like bad at like regular communication too. So just don't trust this person with knowledge. Thank you, you're welcome. Um I will take one request from everyone else to sort of interpret whichever claspect pair you'd like. Because I just sort of have memorized all of 144 combinations of them. I'll let y'all think of that while I pull up the next activity here. Actually, you know what? You know what? Instead of I'll do the extended zodiac. I'll do that in a minute. Um, but there's one more thing I sort of want to go over. Um, it's just maybe again. Damn it. That's fine. Maybe he's cool. How to classify yourself. Um, save. No, don't exit. Is cool. Facts that are true. I can be multiple people, thankfully. Same. Um, how to classify yourself. So, everyone's going to interact with all 12 aspects in their life. Cannot be multiple people. It it takes some effort and a lot of drama. It's fun, but I don't recommend it. Like Homestuck, the best piece of garbage I cannot, in good conscience, recommend to you. Said I can't not be multiple people. Oh, I see. Double negative. Well, I'm changing my class back to waste of English. Part of a plural system, based. Uh, everyone in my head just has to sort of deal with me being the mascot. And they'll get over it. I feed us pizza. Eat of fry. Exactly. So, everyone's going to interact with every aspect in their life. But the dominant one is what is people call their claspect. So, uh, you have a grab bag of 12 classes and 12 aspects. and you're going to take you're going to pair them off one by one based on how you interact with the world. One, two, three. Yep, that's 12. Based on how you interact with those aspects and how they impact your worldview and sort of what kind of person you think you are. It's a very personal thing. Um, Obviously, like outside input is important because like you need to know how you present outwardly, but it's also like you know yourself better than anyone else does. So, um like for me, Mage of Heart. Because I understand, I suffer the self and identity, and it's the bone deep comprehension you get when a concept is fused to your psyche. Literally everything I do and how I think and what I talk about is very heart coded. And mage in the sense that I am more of a guide role, but I'm a very active person. Um, and I understand it more than I know it. But then you also like, for example, Seer of Space. I know a lot about the physics and sort of material of the world, and how to be creative and whatnot. It's not like a deep understanding like the mage. It's more of like a passionate research type. I know a lot about astrophysics because I like astrophysics and I want to know astrophysics. But it's not who I am as a person, basically. And then so on and so forth. And once you have 12, then you're gonna rank them. Um, Basically, most like you to least like you. Or at least like pick 6 of them. Narrow it down by 6. Pick 6 of them that you really like, that you really think fit, and then weigh the pros and cons of all of them. If you see that you have more active classes than passive classes, or vice versa, that's generally an indication that you're going to want to focus more on those classes than those you have least of. The magic thing isn't like super critical to keep in mind. Um, because again, it's one of those looser interpretations that you just add on top of whatever you're doing. Um, and once you've got that, you basically just keep narrowing it down until you've got one left or a few, and then you just pick your favorite. Um, like I said earlier at the start of the stream, it has like the same weight of meaning to it as a zodiac sign. Um, it doesn't really mean much outside of vibes. But now I'm gonna pull up the extended zodiac, and we're gonna do that because it's fun. Let's see here. Let's see if I can change the window capture. Edgelord Rising. Damn. There we go. Introducing the Extended Zodiac, an updated astrological profile for an expanded world. Unlike the traditional zodiac, the system takes into account certain features of your personality and perspective, rather than simply the day you were born. Uh, by taking the test, you may determine which of the 228 signs below is your true sign. Basically, these have to deal with the troll casts in Homestuck. You have burgundy, bronze, gold, lime, olive. Um, do they just call it green? Jade bloods. I know what I'm talking about. Um, Teal. Then you have cobalt, or blue. Then indigo. Purple, violet, and fuchsia. I'm not a troll, so that doesn't really matter to me. My blood's candy red like everyone else's. But that's fine. For your sign class. Um, your birth sign, according to the traditional zodiac, I'm a Libra. And then we're gonna start. Social and flirtatious. Teal signs are natural networkers. They are excellent business partners and collaborators. Although they don't shrink from utilizing their many charms, they are idealists with a strong sense of right and wrong. Um, I mean, it's gonna be accurate to who I am because all of these signs are meant to be accurate to who you are indiscriminately. Um, that's what these sort of things are designed for. They just want you to agree with what they're saying, so you can be like, "Wow, that's so me." They're very general. Determine your lunar sway. Um, Finding out your lunar sway is one of two critical pieces of information and needed to determine your true sign. Because these are all of the prospect signs, and then these are all of the Durst signs. Some people on the internet, are negatively discussing something you hold dear. You could just let it slide, or you could get in there and defend it with your life. How do you respond? Um, I'll chime in with my opinion, stating I like the thing, but I won't really argue about it. To each their own. You are all set to cook dinner when you realize you are missing a couple key ingredients. What do you do? Um, I'll follow the recipe, but make a couple substitutions. Use it as a guideline. I have been known to go out to the store to get one specific ingredient. Um, but honestly, I can't always be bothered to do that. How do you feel meeting online friends in person for the first time? Um, I'm a bit nervous. I haven't really met online friends in person before. Usually in-person friends become online friends. Um, but I'd be a bit apprehensive simply because, stranger danger and all that. You're having a hard time grasping a topic in class that everyone seems to be fine with. I'm gonna raise my hand and immediately straighten it out. I will ask like 50 questions. I will be very annoying about it. If I'm not learning from the class, why am I even there? You start taking lessons to learn something you wanted to for a while. A language class, art class, bartending lessons, etc. Decide in a few weeks that definitely isn't your thing. You decide to stick it out though. Why? I wouldn't stick it out. I'm a quitter. Uh, but if I had to stick it out, I would probably go with this one. If you stop, it means that you didn't like this thing as much as you thought you did, which means you didn't know yourself the way you thought you did, which is unacceptable. Um, when you're on holiday, do you prefer to leave your itinerary mostly up to chance, or do you plan it out ahead of time? Um, I I like to plan stuff. I don't like to plan everything in excruciating detail. Um, but I like to have that sort of guideline there. A friend of yours and someone you don't know are caught up in a heated argument. They've asked you to help facilitate. You want to support your friend, but after hearing both sides, you actually agree with the stranger. I am not above just telling my friends they're wrong. Um, but I'm gonna break it quietly or like softly to them. I'm not gonna just say like, you're so stupid for thinking this. It's gonna be more like, oh, here's actually where you went wrong and your logic there. You have a very important message to write over email or some other text communication. It's sensitive matter, difficult to compose, possibly of an emotional or confrontational nature. When you're done writing, you're about to hit the send button. What next? Um, I'm gonna go over it several times, but then I'm gonna send it. If I don't save stuff in drafts and then just leave it. But I am gonna meticulously go over it for like an hour. And Lunar Sway is Durst. I already knew that, but there you go. Durst streamers are skeptical, restless, and prone to rebellion, valuing rational thought and calculation. They tend to know themselves far better than they know the world around them, finding it difficult to live in the moment. You will learn more about what it means to be a Durst streamer when you see the final results of the test. I don't care. hey, this is where the aspect wheel comes in. You can see sort of what the vibes are. This is where it comes from. Finding out your aspect is the final piece of information. The signs don't care about what class you are. It's just about the aspect and then your lunar sway. Think about your life as it's a story, and you're the main protagonist. I've been doing that my whole life. Do you tend to view yourself as the lone hero, who along the way meets other supporting characters, or who only have a tangential relation to your personal journey? Do you view yourself as just one hero in an ever-shifting ensemble of important protagonists? Um, I'm part of an ensemble all the way. I am uh, categorically an ensemble of heroes. Um, when you want to help people accomplish something and they don't know what they're doing, you are inclined to show them how to do it, or are you inclined to make them feel motivated or inspired to do it? I'm gonna show them how to do it. I will probably be a little pushy and overbearing about it, but that's just what I'm about. When you are learning a new subject or reading a fascinating story, do you feel a strong desire to know everything about it and have all of your questions answered? Or are you more compelled or inspired by the feeling of mystery surrounding everything? Um, Now here's the thing. I like to present as being obsessive and knowing everything about it. Um, but only to an extent. Like Brandon Sanderson's my favorite author, and I'm currently reading through a bunch of the books in his extended universe, The Cosmere. And for books I've already read and topics in those books I've already read, I will go onto the wikis and I will scour them and I will burn that information into my brain. But also like I'm not going to go do that for the stuff of the books that I haven't read because I want to see how the books present it to me first. So, I'm sort of like in that very curious um but there's that little bit of mystery. When you hear someone explaining something to someone else in a way that is questionable. Also, I hope you guys know, like, can see very obviously that it's sort of directly pointing you towards specific answers of like which one you are versus which one you aren't. Um, like when you're learning a new subject, this is very are you light or are you void? That kind of thing. When you're the protagonist, um, are you Breath the loner hero or are you Blood the ensemble? Um, when you want to help people accomplish things, do you show them how to do it, mind, or do you inspire them heart? That's like it's just telling you what you are basically. It's very surface level and it gets a lot of things wrong. When you hear someone explaining something to someone else in a way that is questionable, or a way that makes you suspect you don't fully understand the subject they're explaining, do you teach them the subject to set their record straight, or just cast doubt on the misinformation? Um, I'll provide a correction or two, but won't get carried away. Mostly because before I have the opportunity to get carried away, they kick me out. If you could choose one ability, what would it be? The ability to travel any period of history on Earth at will, past or future, or the ability to safely travel, such as on a nice ship, anywhere in the universe at will instantly. Are you time coded or space coded? Whoa. Um, I'm leaning towards space, and I could engineer this. I could be like, no, I'm heart, and leading time is more heart themed, but like, I think space travel would be cool. If you're working on a project, something you're doing for yourself, not someone else, are you obsessively focused on the end result or are you enjoying the process? Most of the end result. Which option best describes what's more important to you? Understanding yourself? Probably go make a sandwich in that scenario. So true. Which option best describes what's more important to you? Understanding yourself and fully knowing who you are, or thinking rationally, making decisions? Are you heart or are you mind coded? Definitely understanding myself. What idea is more interesting to you? The ability to fully understand your potential as a person, or the ability to fully understand all potential consequences your actions have before taking them. I actually want to understand all of the consequences of my actions. I would love to be able to pick and choose what like timeline split I'm looking at. Which better describes your attitude? Having great conviction in certain beliefs you're attracted to, or casting strong doubt on beliefs or ideas you dislike? Are you hope or are you rage bound? Um, I'm actually in the middle here. Um, I don't want to. I have strong convictions and beliefs, but I don't want to feel as though like I'm completely immovable in them. Gotta like leave room for growth and understanding. But also just casting doubt on all of the stuff I hate, that's like so negative all of the time. That sounds exhausting. When circumstances are intolerably bad, which are you more inclined to do? Come up with the best alternatives or solutions and work hard as you can to make those happen instead? Or don't worry about a better alternative, burn it down, and whatever follows, you'll just deal with it as it comes. Are you hope or range bound? Um, I'm inclined to have a solution first, but not absolutely. If you see someone suffering, are you most inclined to do whatever you can to help them get better? Or is your instinct to relate to their suffering, to empathize without necessarily considering how you help? I'm sort of in the middle of these two. When someone suffers misfortune so terrible that you know there is nothing anyone can do for them, are you most inclined to feel horrible that nothing can be done, or feel resigned to the sense that this is just the way of the world and some things can't be helped? I will spiral about it on myself. I would feel bad. And let's see what BS it tells me. My aspect is time. Wrong, fool. Um, so it's gonna tell me that my true sign is Libres, when actually it should be Liblo. Um, if you go to the start of the extended zodiac, Liblo is down here, or Libo. Damn. Liblo is the Prospect version. And I am just Libo. Sign of the Militant. Um, Teal signs are natural charmers, and there's a whole lot there, and then Lunar Sway for Durst. It's about restless skepticism and dissatisfaction and heart. Very concerned with their favorite subject themselves. Um, this is very the what they say about the aspects is very accurate. It's just the way they determine what aspect you are is flawed because it doesn't take into account your entirety as a person and the role you play in the story and what you interact with, what is your themes. It just takes into account how you answer to questions where it's funneling you one way or the other. But there you go. That's the extended zodiac, and that's prospecting. I don't really have. Oh, there's another thing I can show you guys. If I go to here, let me just. So I run this blog on Tumblr.com, and um, if it would tell me, if it would let me choose. It's not letting me show. I'm not gonna show my actual Tumblr account. I'm just gonna show like my personal notes and stuff for it. That's frustrating. Ah, here it is. So frame motifs are something in Homestuck that um when you die on your quest bed, uh you fuse with your dream self if you have one, and you become god tier. And when you get super high levels, you basically unlock combo attacks with your fellow people. Um, they're called fray motifs, and they're like music themed, which is why they're called motifs. Dog tear shaped hole in the wall. So I run a blog on Tumblr, where I intend to go through and create an actual like fray motif and fray motif name for every single combination of two class specs. So you can see here, there's 9,504 combinations. I did the math. And if you want to know how many I have so far, that is 22. I've done 22 of them. I started like a year ago, and I just haven't touched the blog a lot. Mostly because in that time, a bunch of more information came out about class specting, and that threw up all of my work. So all of the stuff that I do have right now, I need to go and fully redo before I continue the stuff. So you can see I have here all of the different like people, who is who, that kind of thing. What different people's like class specs are, at least all of the ones that we know for sure in canon. And then their different things. So you can see here, Mixolydian Maelstrom, that is the fray motif between a seer of light, that being Rose, and air of breath, which I have written here down as June. I'm a June Egbert truther. Because this is my personal notes. I don't have to worry about canon. I can do whatever I want. And in the comic, their fray motif is called Mixolydian Maelstrom. And so that's what it does. And then the Jude piece is real. One thing that I do when I make fray motifs is when you have someone of one aspect, in here being blood, and then another player of their opposite aspect, they like resonate with each other. And the effect is doubled when it's the same class. So a Witch of Life and Witch of Breath, I think that would be a very potent combo of life and breath abilities. And then same thing down the line. But here, when that's combined with the boost you get from having opposite aspects, so a Witch of Blood and Witch of Breath, I think, would be a super powerful fray motif. And then the same thing down the line all the way. But you have here like Alto Cleave as a request. Ode to Nile Appraisal. Crimson Waltz. These names are really cool, actually. Requiem Sempre. I forgot about most of these. But that's another thing you can do with class specting. There's 144 class specs, and combining them all, not counting duplicates, is a chore. You can see there's a lot. But down here, there's this funky little tool that I've got, where I basically made it so that it would tell you what the class spec is or what it does. So let's say a Witch of Breath, one who manipulates or changes and manipulate or changes through freedom, detachment, and wind. That's a Witch of Breath. If we look up Mage of Heart, one who understands through emotion, essence, and the self. Seer of Space, one who knows through space, creation, and passivity. And there you go. Basically how I did that is, oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Basically how I did that is all the way over here. I have a list of these, and then I have a huge nested if statement that just goes over and grabs these individual ones if, say, one thing is rage and one thing is blood versus doom, that kind of thing. And I've been talking for nearly 2 hours now, and I think I've finally run out of things to say. Well, there you go. That's class specting. That's what we know. And the stuff I made up, of course. We did it. Good job. There's like 10 minutes on the stream. I might just end early. I can't think there's much else to do here. Um, I really like class specting. I do it a lot. I basically all of my OCs I make for like my D&D games or whatever. I class spect just because I don't know. I like the aesthetics of it. I think it's good at describing people to an extent. And especially like fictional characters in a story. That's like what class specting was made for. It's harder on real actual people because you can't like look at their entire character arc in scope. It's a younger me who is a Prince of Blood. Gotta be one of my favorite genders. Princes are cool because they like ghost. Their opposite aspect. Cause like destroying blood looks like creating freedom or creating breath. Um, like destroying chains and bonds and stuff looks um like giving people freedom, even though that's not like what the focus of the ability is. And same thing like in the opposite, destroying all of the exits does look a lot like keeping people in. Um, but like with Prince, like Dirk for example, Dirk was a Prince of Heart. Um, Dirk sort of presented as very logic and mind based. Even though all of his actions and like actual worldview was very heart coded. Um, my brain just died. You get the point. I am gonna go lay down. Thanks for watching. This is the class picking stream. I will try to make that the actual end to Cringetober thing before my 9-year anniversary of running this channel on the 16th or 15th or whichever it was. I should really do the homemade adventure again. I missed that. Anyway, bye. Like and subscribe. Ring the bell. Gilbert says trans rights are human rights. Oh, actually, before I go, I need to class spec Gilbert. I need to class spec Gilbert. This is important. I have 7 minutes left. I need to do it. Um, Gilbert is life coded. Gilbert is something of light. Is a leaf of green. Um, I think Gilbert is Gilbert's a passive class. He's a very chill passive guy. He doesn't really do much. He plays the saxophone and eats stuff. I think Gilbert is an heir of life. I think that's correct. Gilbert is the muse. If ever there were a muse of life, I think yeah, no, Gilbert's a muse of life. I am rescinding my um my deletion of the muse here. Gilbert's the muse of life. That feels right to me. There we go. 7 muse Gilberts. It's the muse of Gilbert. There we go. This is good.